engineering, and I just saw the post, and it said, join up if you were interested in, you know, uh, collaborative coding environment. So I joined.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. What are you learning in your boot camp?
Mostly JavaScript. What is it? HTML, CSS. Well, actually, JavaScript. I kind of like self-taught myself a little bit. But I just kind of started the program, so it really mainly is just focusing on kind of front end stuff. But
Mhm.
I do know a little bit of JavaScript.
Nice. Nice. How's your learning journey going?
It's cool. It's cool. Yeah.
What do you like doing most?
Um, I mean, I like it all, but like for long term, I'm really trying to get into generative AI. So that's like my long term goal. I just wanted to get the fundamentals and basics of actually software engineering before I hopped in there because I felt like that'd be a good starting point. So
Cool, cool. There's this new book on O'Reilly that I really like the description. I don't know if you have access to O'Reilly, but it's brand new.
Mhm.
It's written by Maggie Engler and Numa Damani. It's called Introduction to Generative AI. It was written, published February 2024, and it has a pretty good rating. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the link to this book. I posted in the chat for you if you want to check that out.
Cool. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking at it. It's just there's too much to do and not enough time, you know. But welcome, welcome. Yeah, cool. Thanks
Thank
for
you. I
joining.
appreciate it.
Yeah, Alan, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm into programming, into Java mainly. I want to do like full stack developer. So I just saw this one, so I thought I can able to learn something on React, Angular, Node.js.
Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I don't know if you were in here when I was saying if you have an idea, you could work on your own stuff. If you want to join my project, that's totally fine too, and then we'll go from there. So I believe the project I'm going to be doing it in Next.js, which is technically Node.js, like a wrapper around Node.js, serving React components from the server. So server side React, and then I'm going to use a SQLite database. But that's open to change, especially if someone knows other technology better than me, and they're like, "Hey, we should do this." That's what I'm most familiar with, so I'm going to be going with that. But so that definitely touches on the things you want to learn. But welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining, Alan. We have who's under Alan. We got D. All I see is D. Right above Fernando. If you if you look on the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you can see. Oh, and I'm gonna record these too, just in case anyone misses them and they want to join. I also want to, when I'm building my project, I want to have like references to for people to like see how we got to where we are, like a few months down the road. So just a heads up. Desiree,
Yeah, hi.
hey,
I mostly code in Java, React.js. Yeah, doing mostly front end, a little bit of back end, but I just want to like hone in my skills and really understand the why behind a lot of things to get better. So great to collab.
awesome, cool, cool, cool. Welcome. Where are you checking in from?
Chicago,
Chicago. Nice, nice. Cool, cool. How long you been coding?
2020.
Nice. So a few years. Cool, cool. Well, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining. Fernando, welcome back, sir.
Hi Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Yeah, and just back to see um someone else's project. I'm still I was learning .NET and C Sharp along with React and just building some application along the some tutorial. but I just jam a game into Spring and it's Spring Boot, because sometimes there is some um, available junior position for Java and sometimes for .NET. So I think I just need to stop jumping between those two. Yeah, because I can't finish one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and just I jump into this meeting to get some new ideas for another project, probably.
Cool. Well, welcome. Fernando's a savant. Fernando's been a part of this server for a couple of years now. And I remember when he first started, like Fernando, your English wasn't even on point. It was hard to understand you sometimes, and now you're able to solve like easy, medium, and even sometimes hard data structure algorithm problems and actually explain them to people with visuals. And you're teaching in English, and it's like, man, to see your growth. If y'all could have seen Fernando a couple years ago to all the growth and how much he's grown as a developer in this short amount of time, you all would be so impressed. It's really cool to see. So thank you for joining, Fernando.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I'm next. So I've been coding since about 2017. I started with like HTML and CSS, just dabbling. I was actually a sales manager for a solar company. And I realized that most the members of my team, they were either like really great at communicating with people, and if they're really great communicators, a lot of the time they struggle with like Microsoft Office and the other technology and following up and all that technical stuff. And the people who were more on the introverted side, or the people who were better with the technology, they weren't always the best communicators. And then I had some young guys come in, Johnny and Mike, who they just did both really well. And I was like, wow, they're next level. They have things that a lot of these other salespeople don't have. And I'm like, I started thinking about it. Like, naturally, I'm a people person, but in the environment of the world that we live in right now, my technical skills are nowhere where they need to be. I was good with like Microsoft Office and software applications using these graphical user interfaces, but I wasn't good. And that's what kind of drove me to just start dabbling. I didn't really start taking it seriously until COVID hit. Then I started doing it a lot more. And I haven't looked back. So I'm spending most of my time now with just Node.js, React, that sort of thing. But I have a lot to learn. You know, I still work a full time job, not even in software. I can't imagine sitting in an office for 8 or 10 hours a day staring at a screen. So I still only do like 2 or 3 hours of coding a day, just spread out like 30-minute blocks here and there whenever I have a chance. But yeah, that's me. I have a lot of ideas for building projects, and I realize now as I'm building this project, it's the first real full scale application that I'm building, like building like a real database schema and server actions and requests and response and every like it's the first full stack application I've built. Historically, I just built like little pieces. Like it was almost like you know how an artist, like imagine an artist that never has a full canvas and they don't draw a whole picture, but they just draw like 1,000 trees, and then they draw 1,000 people, and then they draw 1,000 like skies, 1,000 suns. That's kind of what I was doing. Like I was just building very small pieces of larger software systems, but I did a lot on a small scale. And now I'm starting to build like bigger software systems, like I'm actually painting the whole canvas now, and I've done the smaller pieces so many times that I just didn't think it would be as easy as it is now that I'm actually building this stuff. Like I'm telling my girl all the time, I'm like, this feature is probably going to take me like 3 weeks, and then like a couple days later, I'm like, oh, I'm actually going to be done with this in a day, and then I reevaluate. I'm like, maybe it'll be 5 days, and then I just dedicate a whole day to it, and I finish it that day, kind of thing. Where I'm like, oh, things. It's actually not. I doubt myself sometimes, but I'm like, huh, like we could actually build this stuff. You know, we could get this stuff done. It really comes down to the focus, the discipline, the commitment, the research, reading documentation, the things that are just tedious and boring. I think the planning. And if you really spend the time on reading the documentation and understanding the technology you're using, everything becomes super simple. Also, for the people who are newer to it, I would definitely recommend um, just taking courses on like operating systems, database management systems, file systems, computer architecture and organization, like all these things that they teach in computer science degrees. Take the time to learn this stuff because the more you learn about this stuff, the better your software engineering is going to be. Things are just going to start clicking at a rapid rate. Um, but yeah, that's me. I plan to continue doing these peer programming sessions with everybody and just building teams around these open source projects. And hopefully, y'all like my ideas and contribute to my projects. If you have your own projects, I'll do everything in my power to feed software engineers your way as well. So, what's up, Joe? You already chatted a little bit, but what's up?
Yo, what's up, everyone? Hey, I'm in a similar boat to Fernando in that I'm a Java dev, but I'm looking at C# jobs. I'm looking at Ruby on Rails. So it's sort of rough to get a junior development job right now because of it's so senior heavy, such a senior heavy market. And so I'm here because I want to work on a project, maybe get ideas as well, and I'm working on like some Docker Spring Security stuff right now, and nothing to share, just my own thing, but maybe just to be in the environment.
Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Michael, what's up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm in a little bit of different position as everybody. I already have my CS degree. I got it 2012. Um, uh, I'm kind of getting back into development after a long break, and what I'm struggling right now is how granular things I need to know, and I want to just kind of see how the project comes together, how much of the automation tools you use, how much you ask GPT for code. When I'm learning new tools, I'm like, do I really need to memorize all the built-in libraries, or can I just like swap languages and ask GPT write it for me? I'm interested in how granular and how fast you are with this built-in tools, and just here to watch and see how everything pulls together.
Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, ChatGPT is really good for like smaller, simpler stuff, but I asked it for help building the custom scheduling feature that I built like a few days ago, and it just totally messed me up. Like it was way too complicated. I had to really just go through and think everything through and do it myself because I mean, I guess there's a way that you could potentially create a prompt that gets a good response, but I feel like the time it takes to build the prompt, you could actually just build the feature, and then even still, it's like it's not always as reliable as I wish it would be, but it's getting there for sure. So we'll definitely use ChatGPT. I use it more than Stack Overflow and Google at this point. Very rarely do I go to Stack Overflow or Google. You really just don't have to, especially for conceptual stuff and planning and all that. But welcome, welcome, Michael. Glad you're back. Sammy,
Hi.
hey.
My name is Sammy. I just graduated from college with my CS degree, but when I was in college, I found myself focusing more on research and HCI. And then in my last year, I started taking more software engineering classes and was reminded, oh yeah, I like coding. And so now I'm like trying to kind of pivot a little bit more to like a software engineering developer. I at the least just like for fun. So I'm really just here to learn as much as I can because a lot of this stuff I didn't really focus on when I was in college. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool, cool. HCI, that's human computer interaction.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's that all about? I've read a little bit about it, but
Yeah. So me specifically, I focused a lot on the human computer interaction from like a security standpoint. So analyzing what aspects of, say, social media causes people to feel more secure in what it is they're doing versus less. Things like how do things like the device that you're actually accessing social media on, how does that impact how safe someone feels versus the web, or like little things like that. So as a way of so I would conduct research on how people felt about what was secure versus not, as a way of, so that developers could then take that information and apply it to their their applications.
Mhm.
So.
Cool. Cool. Well, welcome. Oh, Antonia, I saw you pop in here. Welcome back. How are you? Yes, I can see chat. I don't know if you don't have a mic or if you can't talk. You've definitely chatted in the past, so maybe you're just. Oh, wow, 4 a.m. Oh, yeah, you're in Germany, huh? Germany, was it? Or Australia? Yeah, Germany. Cool. Well, welcome, Antonia. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and share the project that I want to start dedicating this time to. After I share my project, if someone else wants to share any ideas or projects they want to work on, and I don't know how much we'll actually be coding tonight. This is the first night back. We're gonna be doing this Monday through Thursday, every Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's gonna be 9 p.m. to 11 my time. And that's just the only time I really have available for this kind of thing. Otherwise, I would do it earlier, but I'm just jam packed. But I want to say one of the best things about the events like this is like when you have a bunch of people who come together and they're all hungry to learn. It's like Fernando has been to our data structure and algorithm competitions where it's like we do an easy, two mediums, and a hard, and it's like I'll solve an easy and two mediums in JavaScript, and I'll share my solutions, and someone else will share their solution in Python. So it's like I'm seeing the same solution in different languages. So just naturally, I'm learning Python too. I don't even want to learn Python, but I'm just learning it by seeing the same solution I came up with in a different language. And then also you have other people coding in the same language who show you a different solution, who are just thinking through the problem differently. So not only do you see things in other languages, but you see things, you see different ways of solving the problems. And that's kind of how these pair programming sessions were as well. When we've done them in the past, it's like, this isn't meant for me to just lead and take charge. I don't want to take charge. I want to work with everybody else. I just want to be a software engineer and just chill, relax, like have a good time, learn together, and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my idea. If you guys want to build this project with me, that's totally fine. And then I'm going to open it up to everybody else to share their project if you guys have one you want to build. And like I said, I'll do everything in my power to feed people your way if they're interested in the project. So I have 4 projects here. If you look on the left side, they're open source projects. The one I'm actually working on with most of my free time is not here. I plan to just continue building that on my own. But the one I want to share today first, and all of these are pretty much education based applications. Like response has to do with local security, discuss has to do with communication, amplify has to do with sharing your perspective and having a voice. Model has to do with like mental health awareness. Myriad has to do with musicians, basically creating like a business infrastructure for musicians, but also training those people. Build is more of like trades related, and repair is the one I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm going to go ahead and just the best way to do this would probably be, I thought, Lucid. So I'm just going to show you I wouldn't say this is core functionality, but it's the first page basically. I want to I'm going to go ahead and just say, this is the UI. There's probably some better tools, but it's all good. So we're going to have a zip code entry. So this is going to be the UI. Let me see if I could find a way to just say UI will be blue. That's cool. So we'll have a zip code entry. User lands on the landing page. They enter their zip code to see if they're in a serviceable area. This is just a manual process. Obviously, later on, you could do something like getting permission to use geolocation or something of that nature just to do it automatically. But this will keep it simple and not ask for too much too quickly. So zip code entry. This is going to go to a verification. So just the server to verify whether they're in a serviceable location. You'll have your serviceable zip codes and unserviceable zip code. And let me just give you a little bit more about the actual idea. So basically, what I thought of was I read this book called A+ certification, just about computer hardware and repairs and all this sort of thing. And I was like, how do you help people move from never fixed a computer, never touched a computer, never did any type of that complex repair to fixing computers in a way that's not boring, like classroom learning and theory and not only that, is there a way to train people while paying them instead of charging them, which is the current education system? And so one of my buddies, he owns a vacuum cleaner shop, and I was in his shop one day and customers were coming in, and I was talking to these people who were lugging in their vacuum cleaners, and most of them were like older people. Most of them were older women, like 65 plus. And I was like, don't you hate hauling that thing? I'm like, look at you struggling walking in with that. I'm like, and then you have to wait a couple weeks and take it. And they were like, they hated it. I just asked a lot of questions, like, what would you do to improve this whole process? And so I just asked a lot of questions every time I talked to a customer. And basically, what they were saying was they don't want to have to haul it across town. They don't want to have to wait 2 weeks. And they want to know immediately what the problem is. They don't want to wait like 3 days to figure out what's wrong with their vacuum cleaner. And so what I thought of was fixing vacuums is a very, very simple thing. There's only a couple components. Like there's a motor, there's a switch, there's wires, there's a cord, there's a filter, there's tubing for the most part. And so it's like very simple. It's almost like an entry level way for people to start understanding appliances or just appliances or and then I thought like I actually have a diagram. I'm not going to pull it up right now, but it goes from like vacuum cleaners to like washers, dryers, and slowly adding 1 or 2 more components like heaters or like water pumps, and slowly you could go through appliances that increase complexity. So starting from vacuum cleaners and working your way all the way to computers, all while the people who are doing the best fixing the vacuum cleaners are the ones who move to the next level to open up to start fixing the more complicated things, all the way to TVs and electronics and computers and that sort of thing. So it allows people to learn repairing mechanical appliances and anything that homeowners use in a very seamless way. I'll take some time to find those graphs that I wrote up. I just don't want to spend a bunch of time looking for it right now. And so what I thought was zip code entry. Let's just say it's starting in like Chicago, for example, because someone here is from Chicago. There's 5 zip codes that are serviced. Obviously, you're not starting in a super big location. So the customer comes in, they enter their zip code. The reason why I wanted them to enter their zip code is because there's going to be tons of people who are serviceable within the center of the serviceable location. And then there's also going to be tons of zip codes from around that location. And customers entering their zip code is going to allow this website to collect enough data to understand, to make business decisions of where to expand next. Like, oh, there's 1,000 zip codes coming in Northeast at this location here, but there's only 50 coming here. So like that's the next spot where you want to expand, kind of thing. So enter the zip code. You have your list of serviceable zip codes. You have your unserviceable zip codes. The server verifies the zip code. And then if they're serviceable, it brings them through a flow. Basically like enter their information, schedule an appointment. And then I was even thinking like later on add more features like AI, where based on asking a series of questions like does it turn on? Is there suction? You could use this data that customers enter as a way to train an AI model to better predict what the actual repair is. So when the repair person goes out to the place, there's like a 97% accuracy that they come with the right part and they can fix it right there on the spot. But that's later. So zip code verification, and then a database to store inputs. So if there's been 1,000 inputs, maybe 100 will be in serviceable locations, 900 will be in unserviceable locations. And then I want to use the database, the inputs, to create, I would say, I'll say admin map, a map of the state similar to like Google Maps. And basically, let me see if I could make this make sense. If anyone has any questions while I'm explaining this, I don't know the technical terms. It's really just an idea. And then y'all can let me know what you think. And color the map based on the zip code, depending on where most of the traffic is coming from. So one, the beginning of a form. This zip code entry is just the beginning of the form. It's one piece of a several step form. Zip code is verified, yes or no, stored in the database, and then the database, you could access the map of Chicago with the towns, the zip codes, and visualizations that show you where the traffic is coming from, kind of thing. So beginning of a form, business visualization for decision making. And then obviously there's a lot more here. Like this is just the first step of the form. So after this is built, I mean, the thing is with this, we could just focus on building the form. Like we could just focus on the UI, like, all right, zip code entry, success, continue with the flow with a form that lets them enter their information, name, address, all that information, answer a series of questions. Does it turn on? You know, like whatever are the domain specific questions any repair person would ask. Schedule an appointment, that flow, and then book the job or whatever. But this, I feel like just starting with this here, with the zip code entry, the server, the database to store the inputs, and then creating the map is like, it just allows everybody involved in this to learn so much more in a smaller way. If we do just the form, yeah, we're gonna get a lot of experience in UI. But this allows you to see it from the admin side and from the customer side. And I feel like this would be just a really good way to start. And I think that as we continue to build out, like, so the zip code entry comes first, and then when they enter their name, their address, all that stuff, that's just customer information. When they go and they fill out that form, the questionnaire, the domain specific questionnaire, based on how it's working right now, then we can start thinking about an AI model to use that data, which obviously it would take a long time to build up that data. Um, but then we can start thinking about it in a different way as well. So, I mean, as far as this goes, I would love for this to be some like benefits corporation type of thing one day that is focused primarily on training people. Like, profit's not important. The most important thing is reinvesting back into the people who are actually going out doing the repairs, making sure that the people who are doing the repairs are have career advancement, are getting extra training, are learning more complex repairs on more complex um, devices, appliances, electronics, and so a part of that would also be tracking performance of the people who are going out and doing repairs and that sort of thing. So, does anyone have any thoughts on this? Ways to make this one feature or this string from the front end to the server, the database, and then an admin dashboard. Does anyone have any ideas to make this better? Or a way we could add to it? This is kind of just like, I'm giving you like a high level picture right now. Someone? Should I call on someone?
Oh, hey. So one thing that came to mind was that if you have your Google API key, Google Maps gives you like a estimated travel time, and I was thinking maybe you could add things like is it up a second flight of stairs and stuff like that as ways of estimating how much time the repair man will take to get there, and then calculating like their per hour wage, because it seems like that's something like that would add value to like a guy who's in there repairing stuff. Like, it's going to take me 40 minutes to travel to the location. I need to add that to how much money I'm going to make.
Yeah. So you're saying base the total cost of the repair on not just the repair, but travel time as well.
Yeah, for, if it's sort of like an Uber type of thing, if it's like a decentralized network of handymen or something like that, if that's sort of the idea,
Yep.
then people would want to know how long it takes to get there, because then you could Google Maps, it'll show you, I think it'll show you the traffic level too. You like, there's a bunch of props that the map API takes. It takes like travel mode, and then you put in driving. It puts in your two destinations, start and stop, and then yeah, and your origin
So
and your
calculating
destination.
so calculating cost, this would happen somewhere. So I'll expand this out a little bit just so we could kind of keep things a little bit organized, right? So
I've been playing around Google Maps API a bit. You can throw in custom markers. That's a bit tricky, but if you're doing that in did you say you're doing it in React?
yes.
You might want to look into, if you look at the Google Maps API source code, it's not in the documentation, but there's something called marker F, and you can customize it's like one component. It's marker F, like capital M, capital F, and you're able to
Markers.
you're able to pass in a custom little pin icon
Mm-hmm.
image if you'd like.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, right here, right?
and yeah, and then you have to
Like a little marker.
work with. Have you set up like a chart already, like a chart ref already for the context and all that?
No.
That's the hardest part for me, but I don't know if some other people who are good at front end are probably, there's a lot of good front end people here, and I'm not one of them.
Yeah. Okay. So you have marker elements.
But that's just something that came to mind. I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. So we would have, let me just move everything down. Yeah, so what you're talking about is actually a little further down in the flow too, right?
Yeah, I don't want to
No, you're
skip
good.
steps if you're.
Form entry. Because you would be basing the cost off of, I mean, we don't need to think too hard about the financial stuff right now, but form entry, questionnaire, almost like a self-diagnosis. I know the guy I know who was doing this, he's a little closed-minded to change. I suggested a lot of ideas to him, and he was like, no, he didn't want to hear anything about it, which is totally fine. Some people don't like change. That's okay. But they were doing all the diagnosis internally. So what I noticed was when customers came in, he would ask them a series of questions. What this app would do would actually put the ball in the customer's court to answer that question before their first interaction. I think the big problem with something like this would be the typical customers who are coming in aren't the best with computers or applications, or like sometimes they struggle to even download apps and that sort of thing. So that's probably the biggest problem with something like this, and maybe why something like this hasn't been built yet, but just throwing that out there. So self-diagnosis, and then calculate cost, right? So you were
Yeah.
talking about using useRef to load up the map in React or something of that nature?
Yeah, but I'm not so good at front end stuff. I've done it before, but it's I feel like other people would just know a lot better than me.
Maybe, maybe not, so I feel that way too, man. I got a lot to learn. We all got a lot to learn, so no sweat. Do you want to explain that a little bit more? Just loading up the map with useRef.
Yeah.
I
Let
don't
me
think I've
bring up
used useRef, honestly.
let me find an example that I've made before, just so I have something. I don't make too many mistakes while I talk.
Mhm. We could actually go ahead. I'm kind of just winging it. I
Yeah.
know there's definitely better ways to diagram software. I could probably look into some of that stuff. Normally, I just code. Anyone else have any thoughts on it?
I had a quick question.
Yes.
So with the you were talking about having like the form information as a way of like the users could put in their information into the form and things like whether or not they're serviceable or unserviceable in the range. And I'm just curious as to, have you thought about I guess how the servicers would input their information so that the range of what is serviceable and not is can be more easily calculated and things like that? Because right now it feels very user focused, but I was just, as you were talking, I just got curious about, for like the servicers who'd want to use this application, how would they make use of it?
That's a good question. So I haven't even thought too much about whether the people, because if let's just say I'm a repair person, like let's just say I want to use this application to get repair jobs. Am I getting hired by the company, or am I just signing up like a DoorDash or Uber kind of thing and looking for freelance work, looking for available work?
Yeah, I guess
Um,
that's partly where I was at, where my question was coming from, was if it wanted it to be like an Uber or DoorDash type situation, or how else it would be done, you know?
yeah, I wonder how it would be done. I wonder what
So,
the yeah,
um,
that's a really good question. I haven't thought too much about that. I always thought of it like it was always in my head, and I always thought of it as like they would actually get hired by the company and have health insurance and benefits and all that stuff
That
because
would be, I think, ideal. But I guess
yeah, that's what I
there,
would want if I was
yeah, I
them,
think
you
there would
know?
be a lot of, I think, complications in how to set up, I guess, them to be able to sign up and get hired and things like that, right?
I, I think the technical term she's getting at here is use cases.
Mhm.
Thank
It's
you.
a software
Now I
engineering term for like X person wants and has intention for X and clicks on this and gets output for that, and it's just like a end to end use case. I don't know how to I don't have much else to add.
Yeah, because if they were actually getting hired and had full benefits and all that stuff, then you would need management and it would not be as automated as it could possibly be, which would increase the cost. So, yeah. Um,
Even
y-
if it was sort of like, I guess, a management system where they were getting hired and all of that, there would still need to be the aspect of, and I'm saying this as someone who tends to be very cautious about who I let come to my house or things like that. There would still need to be some sort of way for the user to at least know who the servicer is, what's their name, what's their background. Just like, I know for me that would just give me like a lot more comfort, so I would feel a lot more open
oh,
to use
okay.
it as well. Like that's an even another point as well.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I didn't understand what you meant at first. Yeah, that's how it was at when I was managing in solar too. It was like my teams were scheduling appointments with customers and they were sending a different rep to their house. So like the person who's showing up to your house, they need thorough background checks and to make sure that it's not just any random person coming to your house. Um yeah, I mean, so you're thinking of it from the perspective of the customer who's filling out the form to for the repair basically, right?
Yeah, just so that it's not, I guess, finding a way to code the application so that it's not, I guess, a black box of how will you, like, if you do end up like, if someone does need to come and service for you, like it's not a black box of who that might be, why they're the ones coming, like things like that, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. That's interesting. That's a really good point too. Thank you for bringing that up. What do you think?
I have
Would
no
you feel more
idea.
comfortable if they were like anchored to a business? You know, like if it was official, like there's like, for example, I know of a bunch of local hardware stores where they have like a guy who's willing to do handyman jobs, but it's sort of like whenever he can, whenever he can leave the store, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then he's
Mhm.
accountable to the store. He's accountable, you know, everyone in
Yeah.
town knows who he is. That kind of stuff.
Or obviously have the background checks and all that, regardless of whether they sign up like a Uber or DoorDash kind of thing, or whether it's managed and they actually have interviews with managers who could kind of judge these people before hiring them. I think I think it'd be cool if this is just a thought too. I don't know if it would actually work, but the person who gets the job is the person who's closest to you. So it's like a local
Yeah.
thing.
I like, if we were to go with like the map that was being talked about earlier, it could even be a situation where you could see maybe not their house, but like they have a location set of, oh, this is where this person works out from. They are this many minutes away and will come and help you or something like that. I don't
Mm.
know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can make the users feel comfortable. One of them giving them like a map of like they live within this 1, 2,
Mm,
3 mile radius. Another
yeah.
thing is like um showing where they've done jobs before in areas that are close to you, by your neighbors, kind of
Mm,
thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways we could address that, right?
probably, yeah. It is
Yeah.
also like further down in the process as well. But I
It
just wanted to
is.
raise
It
the
is.
question.
Yeah, it is. But it's a really good point, and I like where you're coming from, and it's something that we're gonna have to think about eventually too. At the end of the day, the way my mindset is it's another problem that just requires a creative solution, and it'll get solved. Yeah, it's just coming up with the solution. It's really coming up to like, hey, that's a problem, and then mapping out as many different possible solutions. Um, and then weighing the trade-offs or connecting them in unique ways that maximize safety and comfort, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, all right, so we have the entry is the only thing as far as I don't know if I should draw arrows or what. I don't know if any of these other parts of the process would be connected to. Yeah, because the zip code entry, the verification, the database store, these are very specific to this feature. And then self-diagnosis, cost, form entry. These are sort of separate from this feature right here. But calculating costs was an important point. And then I also want to self-diagnosis, calculate cost, and then scheduling to maximize safety and comfort for users. How are we going to do that? That's a little bit later, even after calculating the cost. Scheduling appointment. We could even give them an option to choose from like a few people who are local to them, like, hey, here's a list of people who are local to you. This is their ratings. This is how many jobs they've done. Lots of different ways we can handle that. Cool. All right. And then the map, before even getting to this right here, where then we have a colored map for. I know there's tools like Power BI, Power BI, or something like that creates visualizations. They got to have some sort of map visualization there too. I don't know if we want to integrate a tool that heavy. From what I've heard, that's a heavy tool, but I'm not positive. I haven't looked into it that much, so I feel a little forward even saying that. But definitely before building this piece of it here, I would want to understand the Google documentation very well so I could understand like what we could actually build this into. I've definitely seen maps that were colored based on zip codes, so I know it's possible. Just how is the question. And then yeah, I mean, we could start this feature right here. Obviously, it's one for the UI. It's input, very very simple. With the tools I've been using, Next.js, the server sent, React, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Even at this stage, we wouldn't need any type of authentication or verification tokens or sessions or anything like that. So it'll be pretty simple to set up. But before we do that, I do want to see if anyone else has any ideas, because maybe you're just not passionate about this idea. Maybe it just doesn't, talk to you the way that something else would talk to you. I do have this is one of the, like I said, many. Tomorrow I'm going to be working on the response with, because I know one engineer that was interested in working on that. Omar is going to be here tomorrow. Fernando, you know Omar, and he wants to work on this with me. So tomorrow we won't be working on this one. Wednesday we'll be working on this one again. But what ideas do other people have? Like, what applications are you interested in building? And look, it doesn't have to be a wild idea. It doesn't have to be, like a world changing thing. It could just be something you've been interested in building for a long time. Maybe it has to do with pets. Maybe it has to do with, um, you know, um, helping out your community. Maybe it has to do with helping people get jobs. Maybe it has to, there's an endless list of problems to be solved. So as far as ideas to build something and something to work on, that's not the hard part. That's the easy part. At least that's the easy part for me, is coming up with ideas. The execution is actually making it happen and building it. But what ideas do you guys have? Like I said, I'll do everything in my power to notify other people in the community about whatever projects you're interested in working on or interested in building. And yeah, I'll support in any way I can to help you build what you're building by sending people your way.
I really want to build a stock marketing app, but I'm nowhere near that level. But I just had someone come up to me with the idea, and asked me, but like I said, I'm not near that level. But if you can send people my way to help me kind of get this rolling, then I would really be appreciative of that.
What kind of stock market app?
Um, Nothing too fancy. I'd have to go over the details again. It was not really a job offer, but kind of someone who was just like wanted to, like, I guess like a startup, and they kind of asked me, like, hey, like, are you able to build this? And my first thought is like, I'm nowhere near that. But um, if anyone's interested in working on that with me, like, sure, like, that's my idea, or not my idea, but my interest, I guess you could say.
Mm. Okay. Well, look, man, I hear what you're saying too when you say you're nowhere near that, but I'll tell you right now, your role wouldn't be building the stock market app. It would be setting up authentication. You're
Hmm.
there. You can do that. Definitely with a small team, you could set up authentication and logging in. Um, Creating a dashboard with HTML and CSS or React.
Hmm.
You can do that. Fetching data from an API that you're going to load into your dashboard, you can do that. So it's not about building the whole application. It's about just completing one task, and completing one task just over and over and over and over until you get there.
Right,
That's
right,
it.
right.
So you're there. You're able to complete tasks, small tasks, and therefore you don't have to. That's how you get there.
Right.
But it does seem overwhelming when you think of these other applications that are out there. So no sweat. If that's something you actually want to do, is anyone else interested in building? The thing is, we need more details. Is it just like a TD Ameritrade where you could actually purchase stocks, or what are you actually trying to do?
I'd have to get the details from, I believe it's a company. I kind of just heard about it through it's like through Second here, but I could get more details, and I think they pay too. So I mean, yeah, if anyone's interested in, I guess, building an app and also making some money, then yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'd be
Oh, go ahead.
really interested if I knew a couple more details about like what
Yeah, I can garner
exactly
the
you could do
details
on the
for
stock
you.
market. Yeah,
Um, yeah, sure. Just add me on
sounds really
Discord, and
good.
I'll gather the information, and then I'll just send it your way, and maybe we could work on it together. And
Yeah, that sounds great.
all right, yeah, cool. Who are you? Which I didn't see where the voice was coming from.
Oh, I'm Sammy.
Sammy. Okay, let me
SAMI. Yep.
okay, let me go ahead and send you a request.
Thank you. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else? What's up, T? You're muted. I saw you just pop in. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, what other ideas? It's like 9:58 right now. I scheduled it from 9 to 11. Like I said, no sweat on arriving exactly at 9 or staying until 11, but I'll open it up. I'll give everyone just another opportunity. Does anyone else have any other ideas before we go ahead and get started? What's up, Candy or Conde? I noticed you popped in too. Welcome, welcome. And Surya, how are you?
Hi. Uh, I'm good. So I was thinking about the real estate app I was talking about, last week. Do you remember that? Last Monday.
Oh yeah, yeah. What was it when we did the system design thing, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, what was it?
Yeah, so it's about real estate for just, local people, like just people whom you trust and in the neighborhood. And if you want to sell your property to them, it's like a quick minimalistic app that tells you the details about the house, the price, like a ballpark price, like that.
Yes, yes. That was a real estate application that gave access to your real estate listings before anyone else had access to it, right? Like you give
Mm-hmm.
access to people who live in your community before giving access to like people who live out of state or just people all
Mm-hmm.
around the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good idea. I'd be
Yeah.
interested in that. I mean, it'd be nice yeah, because if I knew about properties that went on sale before like everybody else in my area, that'd be nice. I would definitely be paying attention to that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Though I wonder if it would limit your ability to sell for sure if you're minimizing the number of people who could see the listing, but maybe not if you live in a good area. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of considerations, but it can't hurt to build it, right? I mean, the main thing about this event is just learning more than anything. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Does anyone like the sound of that idea? No takers, sir. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I just have too much stuff to do.
Oh, the story of my life.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
you're gonna have to find a way to make that idea a little bit more
Yeah,
appealing, right?
I was thinking of talking to my neighbors who like actually go and meet people. Like I have this church nearby which I go to. So I want to go there and talk to people and quietly introduce this app idea into the conversation and ask them what would they like in the app, what kind of features would they like in the app. So I have to do some field work first before actually coding.
Yeah, seeing if it's something that's even wanted
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I'm thinking of, yeah, because I haven't really thought about real estate at all. Uh, really at all. But I'm gonna give it a little bit of thought too. And if I come up with anything that's unique or I think can add value, I'll definitely throw it your way too.
Yep, sure.
Cool. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and open up the code editor. I'm gonna create a new Next.js project. We'll use TypeScript. We'll use Prisma. I'm gonna have to look at the Prisma documentation to see exactly how to set up the database, but if someone wants to go ahead and check out the Prisma documentation while I set up the GitHub and the project, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start coding. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna create a breakout room. And we'll create more breakout rooms as time goes on and everybody knows what they're doing and that sort of thing. Like I said, I'm not going to be working on the same project every single night. It's going to be different depending on the night, depending on what engineers are here, because I have plans to work on different things with different engineers. But honestly, with some of this stuff, I would just love to see these projects like come alive and be functioning out in the world and be deployed and be working and benefiting people. So if anyone wants to take ownership of any of the stuff that I have too, like I'm totally fine with that. Obviously, I'm still going to be contributing in, chipping in, writing code, busting out features with everybody, but it's very limited. So if anyone is interested in taking ownership of any of this stuff, feel free. We talked about the repair tonight, so we're going to start building the repair tonight. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to be sharing response since Omar is going to be here. And then over the next few months, I'm going to begin talking about the other projects as well. So, yeah. All right. So it doesn't matter how new you are. Feel free to so this is kind of what we need to do. This is a series of steps that I see in my head. If anyone thinks that it should be different, let me know. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create a Next.js app. There's a command for that. I just need to figure out what that is. Check out the documentation. That takes like 2 minutes. So that'll be really quick. Then we'll have that up and running. You could pretty much run one command, npm run dev, and the application will be up and running. So we'll be able to see it up and running. The main thing is that's going to be the server. That's going to be a running node server with Express. It's like a wrapper around Express. And so we're going to be able to quickly create the form, which is just a simple input. We could put validation on that input. There's different tools for validation, but we're going to need it to be the zip code length, like 5 characters and numbers. Exactly how to put that validation. We could go ahead and check some documentation. And then we're going to have to wire up the database. So if someone wants to go ahead and go to the Prisma documentation and just figure out which command needs to be run to create the schema file, because I believe it's a command. I believe it's like npx prisma init or something, and that's going to give us the schema with just some basic configuration, and then we'll go ahead and we'll create the models. The only model we need right now is I believe just zip code, because we're really just using this zip code as a a tally essentially for our visual admin dashboard, and then to check whether it's one of the serviceable zip codes or not. So there's really 2 functionalities there. And then, yeah, we have about an hour, so we might be able to get this whole thing wired up and working within an hour, but it never works as planned. So, all right, so let me go ahead and create another breakout room. We need a couple people to just go figure out how to create that Prisma schema, and then we'll have a couple other people go ahead and figure out how to put, like, what's the best tool for form validation in Next.js. Just explore a couple of different libraries and and make a decision, and just be prepared to say like why this one is the one that we're going to use, just like the way that you would in any software engineering role. You know, you go explore the different options, you weigh the pros and cons, um, and you choose one, and then you say why you chose it. And if it usually you have a reason for choosing it, and if you don't have if it's not a bad decision, or you don't have a micromanager and they let you just do as you please as long as it works, um, then you do your thing. So I'm going to create one more room here, breakout 2. That way the people who are searching how to create the database can chat without like talking about databases in front of everybody, and then the other small team that's figuring out which form validation we're going to use can chat about form validation, and then whoever doesn't want to work on that stuff can just hang out with me. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the code editor, get the program started. I'll also invite everybody into my code editor because there's this tool called Live Share, where I just share a link with you. You hop into my code editor. It's actually created by Microsoft. So super popular tool. We've been using it forever, and it's like Google Docs but for code. So you know, if you type code on your computer, I see it changing on my screen. If I type code on my computer, you see it changing on your screen. It's a really great tool. So we have 2 breakout rooms so far. All right, who wants to check out the how to set up the database? I believe it's just Prisma Docs. Prisma documentation. Yeah, this is the simplest, quickest way I know of. If anyone else has a different way, or you know a different database, well, I'm totally down. Just speak up and say, hey, Prisma's good, but this is better. I have experience with it. Let's use this instead. Then we could do that. But I'll go ahead and share the docs in the chat. And all right, so who wants to do the database? Okay, so Antonia is going to drop down to breakout room number 1. Who else wants to work with Antonia? I believe with Prisma, it's seriously just a command like npx prisma init, and it'll create the schema. And then anything beyond that, as far as creating the database, is we'll find it in the docs. But actually creating the configuration file is a simple command. So I don't want you down there working on it by yourself, though, Antonia. So I want to make sure you have at least 1 or 2 other people working with you. I'm happy that there's so many people on the first night, because I remember there was a time we were doing this maybe like a year and a half ago, and there was not this many people on the first night, and it just grew and it grew and it grew. So it'd be nice to see it growing. I see some people typing. T's just watching today. No worries, T. Yeah, if you made one with Firebase, you could definitely figure out how to do it with Prisma too. Very similar, just different syntax. Does who wants to find the form validation tool that we're going to use? That's definitely simpler than database. So if you're newer, I would suggest that one. Surya, what do you want to do?
form validation, as in checking if the emails are like rejects and stuff like. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so this form, I don't know if you were here for this, but this is basically so we're just having a home page right now with a
Mm-hmm.
simple um 5-digit input for zip code and a
Okay.
button that submits the zip code. But we want to have some validation on that input that says like you know, it has to be a length of 5, it has to be numbers, like just some form
Oh,
validation. Yeah. And there's so many different frameworks, there's so many different tools you could use for it. But I want to give an opportunity to people that actually explore these different tools the way that you would in your job, the way that you would in your job, and explain why we're using what tool, why you chose the one that you chose. You know.
okay. Okay, I'll see if I can find anything about it. So
Okay.
I'll be on form validation.
All right, drop down to breakout room number 2. And then
Uh-huh.
Antonio, you want to drop down to breakout room number 1? I'll continue working through this list and see what everyone wants to work on. I'll send them your way. We just need a couple people in each group so people aren't alone, you know? Is it locked?
Oh yeah, it is locked.
Mm, Connect. Mm, All right, that should be good. Breakout room number 1. Let me fix this. Cool. All right, cool. So, Siri, you can drop down to breakout room number 2 now. Permissions are locked. Antonia, you could hop down to breakout room number 1. All right, so she's down there. T, you said you're just hanging out, so you could hang out with me. Fernando, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm just checking what's Prisma. Well, um, I don't think it's uh probably some kind of mm, what I can tell independent. I was thinking it was independent um database language like Postgres or MySQL, but it's like some kind of or object relational mapping. I think that means or RM. Yeah, just I'm checking. I start checking that. But yeah, after this, I will start working with Spring, especially with Progress. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool. You could use Postgres with any backend framework, Node, Java, anything you want.
So, w- what database are you using with Prisma?
Probably go with SQLite
Oh,
for now. Yeah.
oh, nice.
But anything works really.
Yeah, it seems like Prisma is like some kind of tool that is wrapped in the database, and you can just write some kind of or instructions to extract
Yeah,
and yeah.
yeah, it's super easy to use. All right, so Joe's dropping down there as well. Soup, what are you thinking? All right, well, we have 3 people working on form validation, so we'll let them that do that. And I'll go ahead and I'll start creating this. So let's see. If I go to Next.js docs, I just want to create a new project. So installation, npx create next app latest. So I'll go ahead and all right. So I'll just run that in the directory that I keep all of my projects. Okay, what is your project named? What do I call it? Repair, I guess. Would you like to use TypeScript? Yes. Would you like to use ESLint? Yes. Would you like to use Tailwind CSS? Yes. Would you like to use a source directory? Yes. Would you like to use the app router? Yes. Would you like to customize the default import alias? Yes or no? Oops. Okay. All right. So we have repair. Let's open up the code. I'm going to go ahead and do live share for those who want to hop into the code editor. I'm going to post it right here. So feel free to hop in if you want to go ahead and code along. I'm going to go ahead and do npm run dev and open it up on localhost 3000. I believe live share, shared servers. I want to share the server with everybody so you guys could actually pull it up on your computer as well. And then let's open this bad boy up. All right, so right now, this is when you do npx create next app, this is what you get. You get this next app. If you look in the source, this is where all of our source code is. Then all this stuff you see here is in the page. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete all this stuff. And we'll just say div for now with an h1 called repair. And then something with styling. All right, so we'll just delete all this stuff for now. There we go. All right, and we'll go mobile first. All right, so we have our layout. We have our page. This is where we're gonna have create input button, create input field with form validation. Create button. All right. So 2 simple tasks there. And then, has anyone hopped in yet? Oh, Anton, I went over the project in the beginning. I'm going to be going over the project again. So all the open source projects we plan on working on are right down here. This one is repair. Any communications moving forward with this app will just go down here in the repair section. But basically, we're not planning the whole app right now. We're just planning one feature. I'll show it to you really quickly if you want to see, just so everyone here can know what we're working on. So basically, the UI components or pages are all blue. These are different components. Right now, we're just building a zip code entry. So the user will come to the page, they'll enter their zip code, click submit, and either they're serviced or they're not. If they're in a serviceable location, then it'll redirect to the serviceable UI. And if it's unserviceable, then it'll direct to an unserviceable page. That at least allows, I'd say like the serviceable is going to be just a form entry, like filling your information. We're going to schedule an appointment for you. If it's unserviceable, it just says, hey, you're unserviceable, but you can still enter your information for when you become a serviceable location. We'll let you know, kind of thing. But as far as right now, we're just working on one feature, zip code entry. We're not thinking about any of the rest of the UI. You click submit. There's going to be a server action that says validate zip code. And it's going to determine whether it's serviceable or not serviceable based on the response from this server action. So verify zip code server action. It's gonna always store the zip code in the database. If the zip code already exists within the database, then it's going to just increase the occurrence, like it tallies how many times someone has entered that zip code. For that purpose, there's going to be an admin dashboard with a map of the US or the map of a state, wherever we decide to start it. And it's just going to be dark green if it's wherever the most zip codes have been entered, red wherever the least have been entered, light green if it's less than the most, yellow if it's closer, like light green and yellow in the mid range for how many times the zip code has been entered. So basically a visualization that shows where business is coming, where potential business is coming, where things are unserviced, but like basically the purpose of this map is to help the organization make business decisions of where to expand next. So that's that. Oh, these are all locked. Yeah. I'll go ahead and unlock them. So has anybody joined the live share? No, nobody joined it yet. Is anyone gonna hop into the code editor and code? If not, because I want everybody to get your hands dirty too. I don't want to do all the coding, but I will. Let me go ahead and unlock this so everybody's access, and then I'll go ahead and I will create the GitHub for this project. I think that's fine for now, I guess. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and create a GitHub repo for this. That way everyone has access to it. Here we go. New repository. I only really work on one. All right. Let me make sure I don't already have one with that name though. Okay, so we'll call it repairs. We'll make this public. All right. And then get remote at origin. Okay. Perfect. All right. So now it's accessible by everybody. If you want to work on it, you'll just go ahead and fork the project. There's different ways you could work on it, but just fork the project. All right, so Anton's in here. If anyone else wants to, feel free to hop in here. Hop in now. But, so this is the application right now. Fancy. Cool. So they're in the other channel right now figuring out form validation. When they figure out what tool we're going to use for the form validation, then they'll go ahead and do this, but we need the form before they can validate it. So does anyone know how to create a form? We'll go ahead and just create a form. We actually need, I believe in our app, we could do actions. And so we'll do an input. I wonder if there's one for zip codes. No. Though there is one for number. I wonder what that looks like. I'll just call that zip code. Let's see what that looks like. You got to make sure that npm run is deving. Npm run dev is working. Otherwise, it'll say that it can't be reached. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it a border so we can see it. So we can see it now. There we go. All right. And as a normal string, I would suggest as a regular string because you got normal zip codes and full zip codes with a dash in the middle. Yeah, number is a little different. That works too. Either way works, you know. We can go with that though. So just the text input you're saying? Yeah. Yeah, I mean with the form validation that they're grabbing, that they're figuring out down here, whether it's a string or a number, it doesn't really matter. Because we're going to be able to, there's some form validations I've seen where you can create a regular expression that says like, hey, only numbers. they're also going to have to, I guess we could go ahead and type out what validation we're going to be looking for. So one, it has to be a number. The length must be between 5 and, I think I've seen zip codes with like 5-4. But what would be better if it's just 5 or the full? Nobody knows the full 9. I only know my 5-digit zip code. That's the thing. No one's gonna actually enter 9. So let's just say the length must be 5 to keep it simple. If we want to go ahead and add like custom functionality or make it so the 9 can be entered later, then that's possible. Also, another option would be like we're just building it in the simplest way possible right now to get this thing up and running and testing it and all that stuff. But later you could enter like your town, and the town will automatically pull up the 9-digit zip code. So there's different ways we could go about it, but it has to be length. Can I add a code to a form? I suppose we need to add submitting method and a function to handle submit action. Yes, sir. Yeah, so you're in here, Anton. You can go ahead and create like a submit button if you want for the form. But in Next.js, we're not actually putting method post. We're going to be doing action, an action attribute inside the form. Yeah. Action equals, and then we put the name of the function right there. So whatever we put in our actions directory, that's where we'll put all our server action. So this will be verify zip code, basically. I think I'll go ahead and just say verify zip code.ts. But you want to make sure you put it in between the angles, the angle brackets. More like, here, I'm going to go ahead and do it on a form down here so you could see how it's done. And then you could do it on this one here. So you're actually writing this stuff underneath the form element. You want to write it in the form element, and then action, and then name, like that. Action name. Yeah, there you go. So you don't need the method, you just need action. And you don't even need on submit, I believe. Yeah, you don't even need on submit, I believe. You just need action. Mhm. So our action name is going to be export default async function verify. Actually, we won't do a default because we might have more than one in this. And then we'll just say console.log working, so we know that it's wired up correctly. And then, yeah, so where action is, do action equals and then curly brackets and put the name of our action. So verify zip code. There you go. You don't need the quotations either, because it's not going to be a string. It's going to be just data. There you go. All right, so I could delete this now. Verify zip code. You actually have to pass in the name of the function. So if you look over in this verify zip code.ts, the name of the function is right here. Verify zip code. There. Oh. Perfect. So the error we're getting is cannot find verify zip code. So we need to import it into this file. Just go ahead and import it right there up at the top. Perfect. All right, cool. So we have our action. We actually don't need, I don't believe we need that. We could keep it nice and compact for now. Yeah. And then we just need a submit button. Submit. Check. Check zip code. All right. Let's see what it looks like so far. Oh no. We have an error. Functions cannot be passed directly to client components unless you explicitly expose it by marking it with use server, or maybe you meant to call this function rather than return it. All right, so in server functions, we actually have to write use server, the Next.js node. Okay, perfect. And so let's go ahead and do inside our form. Let's I want to make our button look okay. Let me see how to set up Next UI real quick. Installation. CSS. Individual installation. Framework comments. Okay. All right, bud. Okay. Manual installation. All right, so we'll go ahead and just so our buttons look good, you know. Okay. Let's go ahead and do an npm install Next UI. This shouldn't take too long. Just let me see. All right, so we need to go to our Tailwind config.js. Import this. Since we're using modules, let's do it this way. All right, so we got Next UI. We need to add this to the content. Okay, and then we need to add dark mode and plugins. All right. And then let's go ahead and create. Go ahead and just do it here. We're gonna have to do children. And then return next. Bear with me, I think I'm doing this right. Okay. Is any type. I'm creating an interface called providers props children, and this is a React node. Oh. Let's try this. There we go. All right, and then all right, so that should work. And then we just need to wrap our project in providers. Providers. I believe we could just wrap a whole project in it. All right, now we should be able to use Next UI. Let's go to there. Let's go to page. See if we could import button Next UI org. All right, let's hope this works. Button. Check the zip code. Type. Submit. All right. It's basically a design system. It gives you access to I'll show you, you could check out the documentation if you want, but it's a system I'm familiar with. I use a lot and I think it's really nice. So I think I just have this wrong. Either outside the HTML or inside the body. No. Let's see. No modules, dark mode, next UI, from next UI, or React. Let me make sure it's installed. Next UI, yes. All right, so we have Framer Motion. Okay. Children, React node. What are the options? If anyone wants to chip in, feel free to. Might be React. Okay. Pretty sure it was that. Oh, it's okay. I'll figure it out. I don't want to take up all the time doing this. I could check one of the other projects for the configuration. Button. All right. So we have our zip code. This should just print to the console. It's not going to print to the browser since this is actually executing on the server. It'll print in our command line. When you click this button, we should see the console.log. Yep, so it's working. Working. Cool. All right. So our function is now working. Now, I believe that they're working on form validation. And I don't know if they're doing anything with the database, but those are basically the next steps. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hi.
Hey.
So we thought about the form validation and we have 3 ideas.
Mhm.
So, the first idea is this library called Formic with Yup. Have
Yes.
you heard about it?
Yes.
So you can use that for validation. And there's another way called React Hook form. I'm not sure what it is, but that's another way of validating zip codes. And another one which Joe came up with is using an enum file or a text file of zip codes and comparing the zip code the user entered with that array and then validating it. So these are the 3 ideas. And we had another doubt while talking about this because there are like 41,000 zip codes in the US. So my question is this app going to be a local thing or is it going to be a nationwide thing? Because if it is local, you can narrow the number of zip codes down like by a large amount, large difference. So we'll have much smaller set of zip codes if it is a local thing. And Joe also pointed out there might be some cases where the unserviceable zip codes and the serviceable zip codes are in fact much closer than what you know than in number, like you know what I'm saying. So they might be very close but they might feel like unserviceable because they just cross a certain radius, certain limit. So
Mhm.
these are thoughts. What do you say?
Yeah, I like that. While you were in the other room, there was a couple things that I pointed out too. Here, where the zip code entry, it's either going to bring you to the serviceable or unserviceable. Like, hey, great, you're serviced. Uh, what's your name or whatever? Just fill out the form. Or unfortunately, you're not in a serviceable area, but hey, fill out your name anyways, and we'll let you know when your area becomes serviced. So regardless, it would move towards the form. I think the way that I would think about it, as far as this is just me personally, everybody's different, but the way I look at it, as far as the scale, is I look at it in very small steps. So I'm like, how can I build this in the smallest, most testable way before scaling it up to something bigger? And so I would say you have like 10 serviceable zip codes, 100 unserviceable zip codes. They don't even have to be real zip codes, dummy zip codes, just to make sure that the functionality of the application works. And
Oh,
then once we know that the functionality of the application works, then we could plug in real zip codes into that functionality. And then once we see that it works on a local level, then we can scale it up. So it's like
Mm.
slowly just building only what you need just to test it. That's just me. Everybody's different. That's the way I approach things. I just want to get something up and running as quickly as possible. Let's test this. Let's get it running. Then we'll plug in the real stuff, you know. And then as far as form validation, did you find a difference between the two libraries? And if
Uh,
so, what?
no. Oh, okay. Now I see why you asked us to do the validation thing. Uh, okay, we'll get back and come up with one good library. How about that? And I have one more question.
Yes.
So when you say serviceable and unserviceable, so if the zip code is unserviceable, you'll still ask them their details anyway. That was your approach, right? How about giving them the nearest serviceable zip code to their unserviceable zip code, or a list of serviceable zip codes that are closest to them?
Give them the nearest closer. You mean like, hey, you're gonna have to move to a home in this zip code, or we can't. I'm just playing.
No, no. Like
I'm
the
just
nearest zip code is that place. Do you want to try using another zip code, something like that?
the way I envision this was there are no actual storefronts.
Hmm. Okay.
It's mobile repair 100%. But that doesn't mean that there can't be storefronts. I think that's an option. I think it's just it's a costly option, and I think it could be done more efficiently, but I'm open to hearing why storefronts would make sense. Um, just the way I've always pictured it in my head, there was never any storefronts. It was always just strictly mobile. But yeah.
Hmm. Uh,
And the reason why I said like, hey, still fill out the form and we'll let you know when you're serviceable is because that map, the dashboard, the visual representation of the map is gonna help the organization understand um, where all the zip codes, where the demand is. Because if the demand is high enough, then you're going to start like promoting it to people who could do repairs in that area and expand out to that area. The thing is, the more I think about it, um, if there are people who are willing to do repairs in that area, what's the hesitation to expand there besides demand? You know,
hmm.
if there's not a demand, there's no work. If there is a
Hmm.
demand, there's work. So yeah, I guess we're gonna learn a lot as we continue to build it out. It's still not completely clear in my mind, and for me, it's more. I'm always like, if there's ever something like a business decision that needs to be made, or like, hey, which way should we go with this thing? I care more about providing um, opportunity education and a trajectory to growth to the people who are doing the repairs.
Mm.
You know, I want this platform to be more of education for people who are hungry and want to learn and are driven, are like, man, I'll do 20 repairs in a day. If you're hungry and your performance is high, then there's no reason for you not to move into repairing more complicated appliances or electronics or even computers eventually. You know, so
Mm.
my focus is always going to, and I don't want everyone's focus to be on that, because it's important that we have different perspectives. But that's just so you know, that's going to be my perspective. It's always going to be building something that's providing the best education and the best growth for the people who are actually doing the repairs, because I want this to be something that's competitive with like a trade school or a regular school. You know, like
Mm.
you could go and get a 4-year degree and pay $150,000 for that education and learn electronics, or you could get paid for the next 4 years and learn way more than just electronics and understand not just electronics and laptops, but also machinery and water pumps and so many other things that are involved in different appliances and electronics and all that stuff. So as far as like the exact training program, I don't know, but I think there's something here,
Mm.
you know, as far as like a training program that gives opportunity to people. And then hopefully um it also provides value to the people who need this stuff repaired, you know?
Mm.
So it kind of reminds me of like I'm not interested in making any profit off this. I'm actually working on something that's very promising. So this, I want it to be, I just want to provide as much value as possible, like open source, B corporation structure, just value to society as a whole, to the users, to the people doing repairs, and even create jobs for engineers as well, software engineers, you know, because definitely software engineers need jobs more than ever now.
Mhm.
You know,
True.
so
True.
yeah,
Yeah.
overall win-win-win for everybody involved. And but as far as form validation, there's one other tool for form validation that I've used before. I've heard of Formic. I've used it before a while ago, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a little bit of research on the tool that I've used more recently. And I'm going to make an argument for why we should use that one. And then if you guys want to go ahead and figure out why, up an argument for why we should use the other one, then when we meet back here on Wednesday and we work on this project again, then we'll discuss.
Okay.
We'll discuss on which one we're going to use. I'll tell you why we should use the one I researched. You guys share the one you researched and say why we should use that one, and then we'll make a decision together. We'll go ahead and we'll implement it. And then as far as progress we made today, we have the Node.js server up and running. So it's very simple right now. We have the home page, we have an input, we have the check zip code button, and then we also have the request built. So this is a server action. This is running on the server. And then if you click the button, you could see it's not going to log to the console in the browser because it's actually happening on the server. But when you click the button, it's wired up. So it's working. It's wired up. It's making a post request with a 200 response. So all we have to do here now is we're going to pass in form data. Once we have the form data, it's going to be zip code form data. We're going to compare zip code against serviceable zip codes. Return true or false. Compare zip code against previously entered zip codes. if it already exists, increment by 1. If it doesn't exist, create it and set it to 1. And then respond with, I don't know, maybe like an object or something with a message. And this could all happen inside of a try catch. We could do like a try. And if it doesn't succeed, then we could respond with object there. And then that way our component will get that response back based on whether we get a success message or an error message. We could redirect to, I guess this and this could be the same page, but it renders something different based on the response.
Mm.
Or it could be a different page entirely. I guess we could talk about it more, but yeah, so that's what we'll do on Wednesday, and then we'll go ahead and we'll wire up the database so we could actually, we'll have to wire up the database before we can even write this because we're making one request to the database here and one here, right? We'll have to think about the schema and what would be the best way to set up this functionality. But yeah, think about it. I'll think about it too. And yeah, we'll build this out and we'll get it working.
Okay.
Yeah, this I mean, I'm gonna be doing Monday through Thursday every week from now on. Like I said, there's many different open source projects I want to work on, but I'm gonna focus on this repair most days, except for the days when Omar is present, because the days that Omar is present, we already discussed working on response. So I'm gonna be basically back and forth between response and repair. Response is pretty fun too. Some of y'all might even prefer that over repair, but if you want to help on both, that'd be sweet too. But yeah, we'll go from there. And then I hope people just start coming with ideas too, because I have a ton of ideas and I want to start implementing stuff, but I don't want everyone to think like, hey, we're only working on his stuff. Like I don't look at any of this stuff as my stuff. I look at this as our stuff. So
Mm.
it's exciting to me. But let me go ahead. I already set up a GitHub repo, so let me just, I'll do git add. I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna say zip code form and verify zip code server action. I'm gonna share the link to the repo as well.
Hey Jim, how'd you set up that server so fast? How'd you deal with CORS issues?
So I don't have to deal with CORS issues because this is server side rendered React.
Oh, I never heard of that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Something to look into.
Yeah, Next.js handles that stuff for you because of the server. I believe so CORS is when your front end and your server have different like port numbers, right? Is that what that is? Cross
It's cross-origin resource. Yeah, not port. Yeah, domains. So if your front and back end are separated, you know, if you have some layer of security at all, then you know, if they're out in the public somewhere, like pushed up somewhere, you know, Railway or AWS, then your server has to know which front end is going to try to call it.
Yeah, I've run into that with Express before, but I think it was just I believe Express has a library called CORS, I believe. It's like a middleware, right?
That's all new to me. That's cool.
Yeah, I believe even Express.js has a middleware called Cores that solves that problem for you. But Next.js, I'll tell you right now, setting up a Next.js project and producing something with it has just been so flawless. It really has been. I love it. I love it. With anything administrator related, like our dashboards, we could serve those as client components. Because SEO isn't important. It's not going to be important for people to find those on the web, but anything that's going to be internet facing, things that we want people to find in the browser from a Google search, it's going to be a lot better that it's server side served from Node.js. That just means that like the web page was built before it actually made it to the browser, because there's times where Google web crawlers are so fast that with client components, all it'll get is like the div with the root, and your page hasn't been populated, nothing has been rendered yet. So the web crawler doesn't even know the content that's on the page. So like client side components, you don't want that. So Next.js is also, that's the reason why I started using Next.js, was because it was server side rendered React, and it's just good for SEO. You know, the pages are rendered before they ever make it to the browser. So by the time the web crawler comes to it, it's actually seeing all the content that's on the page instead of just like a div with a root, you know? But yeah, so next, let's see. So I pushed that. Did I share the link? Let me share this link with everybody. Hopefully, I'm sure some of the newer people might not know exactly how to contribute, but that's okay. Here's the link just so you can connect to it and follow the project. And over time, you'll learn how to like fork the project and make contributions, and we'll even create like different branches and all that stuff. It'll be nice because normally I'm like, I've just been working on my own project, so I don't even create any branches. I'm just kind of just pushing everything to the main branch right now. But it'll be fun to get back into doing things the right way. But yeah, so tomorrow we're gonna do tomorrow I'm gonna go over this response application. It's pretty interesting. Like this repair, it's just an idea I've been sitting on for years, and now I'm finally ready to start building these things. And we'll see how it goes. You know, I throw these ideas out there, but I'm definitely looking for perspectives from everybody else. Like the reason why I want to work with people on this stuff is because like I don't think I could do it alone. I'm not capable of like thinking through things from different perspectives to build it in a robust way that actually benefits people. If I build it my way, it'll be limited, extremely limited, you know. So, and hopefully people bring ideas that I could channel other engineers your way as well. So keep that in mind if anyone comes up with good ideas. That'd be sweet. But yeah, does anyone want to say anything before we hop off? It's about 11:11 right now, so I'm gonna hop off and then we'll meet back here tomorrow. Soup is explaining Cores is actually implemented client side, and to allow clients to properly handle their Cores requirements, you add the Cores middleware to the back end and handle Cores manually. Or handle Cores manually. Yeah, I've used the middleware before. That was like, I think just a line of code. You basically say, hey, I'm X.com's backend, and I say I allow clients that are currently connecting to Y.com to make calls to my backend. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, so it's just the client and the server are actually built separately. They're not connected. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for the session. Need to dig into this. Totally. There's things I need to dig into. I'm going to dig into form validation a little bit. And then we'll go over I'm pretty sure I know how to set up the database through Prisma. It's just the quickest, simplest way. It's like Next.js as far as setting up and getting an application of production, but for databases instead of servers. So you'll like that, Joe. Cool, cool. All right. Then thanks everyone for joining tonight, and I will see you all soon. I look forward to this event just growing and growing. Peace.